So, chapter 3. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about learning styles. We'll talk about Myers-Briggs, your Myers-Briggs type indicator. Have some conversations about multiple intelligence. Then we'll talk about motivation, the types of motivation, how to start building and setting goals, self-efficacy, and finally we'll talk about stress. All right? Anybody feeling stress? All right. Cool. So we'll talk about how and why we end up with stress.
Well, if you lived in my house, you'd know.
If you lived in my house, you'd know too. All right. So first of all, has anyone ever heard of or used the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator?
I tried to do
Yeah.
that.
You tried to do it?
Some jobs you apply for, you have to take it.
Yep. For some jobs.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. For some jobs, you have to take it. And why do you think employers want people to use the MBTI?
We don't know what it is.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what it is, but for those people who do know what it is, why do you think
But
employers?
you know where to place somebody or.
Okay, so they know where to place
Who they're
people.
going to work best with.
Okay, the kind of people that they work best with. All right, so to see where they fit in the philosophy of the company. All right, so the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is basically a test that is designed to look at people in 16 dimensions. All right, 16 dimensions. And we'll go through what those dimensions are in just a second. The other thing that we'll talk about is multiple intelligence. And what do you think that means? That there's more than one intelligence. All right? Typically, and we'll talk about what the 7 are in just a second, but typically, what in traditional school roles, how is it that teachers have taught you in the past? By dictation, right? The teacher would say something and then you have to write it down, right? That's typically how in old school they taught. What we're starting to understand and learn about the brain is that some people process information in different ways, and teachers need to figure out how that works for each student, but also students need to know how their own brain works and how they get information. All right, so we'll talk about these two learning style pieces. All right. So first, when we talk about Myers-Briggs, these are the types or the indicators for the Myers-Briggs. All right. There is the what we call either the attitude orientation or the energy and drive orientation. And you are extroverted or you are introverted. What does it mean to be an extrovert?
You project your behavior.
You project your behavior. All right, what else? You're outgoing, you're outspoken. All right. Extroverts generate or they get their energy from outside of themselves. All right. They're what people often call the life of the party, right? You know, they're usually in the middle of the circle and people are going, woo, woo, and they're like, yeah, right? So they're usually that person, which means that they like being with people and around people because that's how they generate their energy. Introverts, what do you think introvert means? Obviously, it's the opposite, so it's what? They're reserved. Their drive comes from within. So the extrovert might be, in this party situation, someone who might be standing off to the side having an individual one-on-one conversation. All right. Or at the end of the night, they feel really drained because they've had to interact with all these extroverts. Now, all of these, I would like to offer to you that they're like on a continuum. You're not one or the other, but you're more on this spectrum, either far left or far right. You fall someplace along that continuum. All right, all of us. So there's extroverts and introverts, and this is our energy axis, how we get our energy. Then there is this axis, which is how we like to gather information. All right? Either sensing or intuition. And sensing means that you like to get your information through your 5 senses, which are what? Yep, taste, smell, see, touch, hear, taste. Right? If you don't see it, you don't believe it. Right? Show me. Right? Jerry Maguire, show me the money! Right? Intuition, these people like to get their information from their gut. Now, I don't know how or why, or I really don't understand, but I know I have to do this thing. Or I should turn right now. And then, has anyone ever done that where you just get this inkling and you do something and you avoid some kind of calamity, or you hit the lottery or something, but you didn't know really how you got it? That's your intuition.
Every time I follow it, it was a bad idea.
Every time you follow your intuition, it's a bad idea, huh? Okay.
You better start going with your sons.
Remember that day hang out with you.
All right. So that's your sensing or your intuition.
That's a good idea.
Next is your thinking or feeling, and this is how we make decisions. All right. Thinking folks like to follow the rules. They will look at things that other people have done that's been successful, and they model themselves after that. Right. People who are feeling usually they'll look at the rules, but they'll make their decisions in spite of what the rules are. And sometimes they're exactly what the rules are, but it's more about how I feel about it, more than if it makes sense to me.
So you say people that feel usually follow their emotions?
Sometimes emotions can play a role in how,
Make decisions based on
sometimes they can make decisions based on emotions, yes. Yep. All right. And then lastly, go ahead. Oh.
It's more
And then-
logical or illogical thinking.
Sometimes, some people can say that that's
Rational or irrational.
illogical or rational or irrational. I don't like using that language only because it sets up a dichotomy that says one is good and one is bad. And there are certainly times and places, for example, if I'm walking down a dark alley and the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, and I don't necessarily see anything, I can't really put my finger on it, I would trust that over what my senses are telling me, what I can see. Because every now and then you get that, and this is really interesting because a lot of people are talking more about emotional intelligence and how often our relationships with other people are better if we have better emotional intelligence. So and so then lastly, it's how we react, or when a decision is being made, what the final result is, and how we respond to that final result. All right? Either judging or perceiving. Judging folks like and need to know exactly what the rules are. We've made a decision, so let's stick to it. All right? Perceiving folks like to have open-ended judgments. All right, so at the end, let's make sure we've looked at all of our options, all right? As opposed to judging folks who are saying, we just have this one, let's focus on that, all right? So this is your Myers-Briggs type indicator. So we're going to do one of those right now. So there are 4 questions. 4 categories of questions that you will need to answer.
Another one.
So, if you open up this packet, it's pretty self-explanatory. Read
Read and then answer the question.
Read and answer the questions. Either E, the first one is either E or I. The second one is either S or N. All right? Question 3 is either T or F. And question 4 is either J or P.
We're not. Oh, we're not actually answering questions.
Read the page and then answer the question either one or the other. And you may want to think about this in terms of work or school or your individual relationships.
So you gotta read the top one?
Yep, read everything and then answer either side of the questions at the bottom.